Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. So today I'm going to do a little nature study. Many of you may know that I have chickens here at Dandelion Cottage, and the kind of chickens that I keep are bantam chickens, which are very teensy tiny chickens. They're really sweet, they're very affectionate, they're smart, and they're just wonderful companions to have when you're out in the garden and walking around and hanging out in the yard. Um, so I've been trying to replace some of my flock because I've been keeping chickens now for about 16 years, and a lot of my chickens are in assisted living. They're getting kind of elderly and naturally passing away. So I need to refurbish my flock. I was trying to do that with my own eggs, and I was not having much success. And someone knew that I wanted to have more chicks and actually gave me a Banty hen with 12 baby chicks, and I've called her Mamacita. If you'd like to see Mamacita and her chicks, you can go to my Instagram page at Dandelion Cottage and see some pictures of her taking a dust bath with the babies. I'm going to be posting more pictures of the babies soon. But one of the babies that came with Mamacita was a runt and was not doing so well, and we weren't sure if this little guy was going to survive, and sadly he did not. He died yesterday. And I'm a big nature lover, and anytime a chicken dies on my property, I plant it or bury it under a shrub or a plant or a perennial. So a lot of the gardens have nice memories of some of my chicken friends. So today I thought what I would do is I have this little guy, and one of my gardening assistants named it Little Vendetta. But so to honor Little Vendetta's life, I'm going to do a quick nature study of him. I'm going to use his little body as inspiration, but I'm going to paint him as if he were still alive. And then I'm going to make a card using that study and one of my most favorite stamp sets. I have a collection of stamp sets that I keep whether they are expired or retired or not. And these are stamp sets that I keep in my design collection because I think that they have such wonderful images, sentiments, or design elements. I'm going to show you some of my favorites. And not all of them are still available, but you may be able to find some online somewhere. So let me show you. I just pulled out a great big stack of them. This one on the top is the one I'm going to be using today, and this one still is available. So let me just make sure I'm telling you the right thing here. In the back, so the Stampin' Up! Catalog itself is a fantastic resource because not only does it have all of the items that are for sale, including the tools and adhesives and papers and embellishments and everything else that you'd want to leave in your keeping your orders. But in the very, very back, there's an index, and I use this quite a bit. So I can scroll down to the name of the stamp set, and here it is, Positive Thoughts, and it tells me the page number, page 76. So I can flip to page 76. And here is the stamp set, and in the description below, it also mentions that it coordinates with Positive Thoughts dies, and those dies are on page 162. And so if I flip over to page 162, like so, I can find, where is it? Did I read that? I think I read it wrong. Oh, here, no. Hold on a second. I think my poor old eyes misread that. Let's see what it said. All right, now I don't even remember what the other page was. Let's just find it. So these are the all the dies that are available, and as you can see, there are quite a few. Here it is. It's on page 164. So it's this one, Nature's Thoughts Dies, and it has not only a beautiful big label with a wonderful decorative edge, but it cuts out several of the different stamps that are in the set. Actually, I can just show you the dies here. It has this decorative filigree element. It cuts out the feather, the flower, the ferns, but it also has some additional dies for these butterflies. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you were only going to get one stamp set and one die set, this is the one I would recommend. I think this will always be a favorite of mine, and it is still available. It also has this decorative element too, which is very pretty. So anyway, that is that set, and that's what we'll use today. But just very quickly, I'm going to run through some of these other sets. Many of these are retired, but there are similar sets. There's always new ones coming out that have a lot of similar patterns or ways to use them. So here's one that has several nice sentiments, but it has these sort of design texture background elements, which are really nice. And it also has something that looks like a little trompe-l'oeil gem design, some specks, some string. Forever Fern is one of my most favorite sets. I really liked the script used in the sentiments, and this came with some great dies as well. I believe this one is let's check. Maybe it's not retired. So flipping back to my catalog here. Forever Fern, it's still available, page 71. Okay, so that's wonderful. So this is still a go. And I really recommend this one as well. It also comes with a great set of dies. Very Versailles, another favorite set of mine. This one really is a designer's dream set because it has this wonderful script background, which I think I'm going to use today. Has fantastic sentiment, always thinking of you, more decorative elements, this sort of flourish of these vines, which you could use as a border or by itself, and this wonderful kind of a medallion here. Woven heirlooms, or heirlooms, excuse me, has this fantastic sort of broken script that I love. More texture, more design elements. It's got a little dingbat here. Wonderful tiny little sentiments that you can tuck in somewhere. Another great one. This one I know is retired, but this is a great example of these textured backgrounds that you can add to your collection. So keep an eye out for things that look like this. This one's really nice because they're so different from one another. We've got something that looks like tree bark here, a broken woven fabric here, this sort of blocky looking texture, and this wonderful sort of Baroque tile design. Okay, and then these more of the same. And here's an example of a set that has borders. I'm always looking for border sets. And so at any time there's a nice border set that comes out, I grab it. And I particularly liked the script and the sentiments as well. So those, as a designer, those are the sort of things that I look for. in a stamp set that I know I'm going to be able to use a lot for over the long run. And these are ones that I would not part with. I would always keep these handy. Okay, so I'm just going to put these, I think these are the ones I'll probably be using today. And while I'm at it, let me double check. Let me see if Very Versailles is still available, because I think it might be. It is. Okay, so page 101. And if, by the way, if you're looking for a catalog, I'd be happy to send you one. You would have to pay for the mailing, but just go to my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com, send me an email, subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage, and I will have information about how you can get a catalog. They're not only great for looking up things as I just did, but also for design ideas. So, you know, each page they have an example. Here's that nice forever fern, and you can see how it's giving you all of these wonderful ways to use the set. So it's just loaded with information. It's a big fat catalog, and I really recommend that you get yourself one. Okay, so let's get our little guy out and get ready to paint. Let me make sure the settings are okay here. Yes, I see I'm live. A catalog there. So and I see Ginger. Hi, Ginger. Okay, so I have a piece of watercolor paper here ready to go. And what I've done is I've torn it to the size of a standard note card, and this is the very vanilla thick cardstock, which is lovely, and it works beautifully with my hot press watercolor paper. I also will be using an envelope. So this is a very vanilla envelope that also matches perfectly. So these are the raw elements that I'm going to be using today. I'm going to keep it very simple, but I'm going to be using a lot of different techniques. So I'm going to put this aside for the moment. I have my watercolors out. So here they are. I've got yellow, red, and blue. If you're interested in watercolor classes, you want to go ahead and subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage and get on my mailing list, and I will be able to send you all the information about my Watercolor Card of the Month Club and my upcoming watercolor classes and the ongoing ones. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is decide, am I going to go vertical or horizontal? And I think for this card I do want to do a vertical card, and I'm going to be combining both stamping and painting today, and I think I want to put my watercolor image right in here somewhere, and then I'm going to stamp some texture and a sentiment and maybe an image. So it's going to look almost like a collage. Now here's my little guy. This is little Vendetta, and what I did was I made this little box to hold him in position so that he would stiffen into position. So there he is, and he's still looking very beautiful. You can see his little feet, which are so cute, and his beak. So we'll put this precious little guy off to the side here. So I'm just going to put him right here so I can sketch him. And then after the video today, I will go out and bury him in a very special place in the garden. And I think I need to prop him up a little bit more, so I'm just going to put this underneath there. All right. So quick sketch. So just I'll zoom you in so you can see better. Kind of an oval shape for his body. The little tuft where his tail was just starting to grow. His tiny little wings. Okay, is his head, his cute little head. And beak. And actually, I think I need to get a little bit more of a profile view. So I'm going to tip him a little bit so I can see more of the side of him to make it look a little bit better. There we go. All right, so I want to get his eye. And get that kind of fuzzy texture. And his toes. There we go. All right. Now, for my little bird's feather color, I'm going to mix together. I want to show you this. So I'm going to zoom you back out again so you can see my palette. There we go. So obviously he's not red, yellow, or blue. But if I take my paints, and I'm just going to give these a good spritz because I was talking too long and they dried up. I'm going to take a little of everything that's on my palette and mix it all together. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why it's a good idea to not over clean your palette, because you have all of these wonderful tones that are so useful. So now I have a kind of a muddy mixture of each of these colors, and if I pull them all together, I can add a little more blue. I'm going to start to get a kind of a brownish, a cool brownish mixture, which is very close to the chick's coloring. And I'm just going to take a very dilute mixture of that and just wash that over my sketch. And I'm being careful to leave the paper for my highlights in his eye and beak. I'm going to just double check and see what color his feet are. Kind of the same as the rest of them. All right, and then I can make a darker mixture. And start to add some of the shadow areas. And I'm just using the tip of my brush to create some of these shapes and the form of the body. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put a little shadow underneath him. A little cast shadow. I'll soften those edges. There we go. And your shadows are going to be darker, closer to the form that's casting them, so I'll just add a little bit of gradation in there. There we go. Okay, so I think this needs to dry a little bit before I can go further with my watercolor. So while that's drying, I'm going to get out my stamp sets and see if I can find a sentiment. Actually, one thing I want to do is I want to use this script in the very Versailles. So I'm going to start with that. And it's a good size stamp. So I'm mounting it up on my block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a sort of a soft background image. Let me move this little guy over so there's more room here. And I'm going to use my Sahara Sand ink, but I know that my ink pad was filled not too long ago, so it's going to be really strong. So I'm going to stamp it off a couple of times. And what I mean by that is I'm going to stamp it first onto my scrap paper before I stamp it onto my artwork. And that way it won't be so dark. Okay, that's pretty good. So let me give you a close-up of that so you can see. See, so just something for a little background image. And now I want to find my sentiment. And I think we'll keep it really simple. I'm going to use this little tiny thank you just as an expression of gratitude. And where will we put this? I'll put this over here. Okay. And there is a feather in the Positive Thoughts set, so I'm going to grab that stamp. Okay, there we go. Maybe one more over here. All right, now I'm going to get back to my painting. The watercolor is dry now, or at least dry enough that I can get some finer details on it. So I'm just grabbing some paint and I'm making a darker color now. So I'm adding a little more red, a little more blue, a dash of yellow, just to keep it neutral. And I'm just going to sketch some details in the bird's face. So his eye, well, first let's start with his beak. The top of his beak, his nostrils. And then look at his eye. And I want this to be very dark. So now I'm taking a stronger mixture of paint. And if my head's getting in the camera, I apologize. This is very tiny and close work, and sometimes I just have to get right up close. And then I'm just adding some little strokes to indicate the fuzzy texture of the little baby feathers. And just want to take a look at his little wing. These little bantam chickens actually are able to fly. They're small enough and they're light enough. They can't fly for any distance like a songbird, but they can certainly jump up into the trees. And if they're being chased by something, they can fly away to safety. And this little tail tuft. And one thing that I like to do with very fine textured surfaces like this, so for these little fuzzy feathers, I can actually take my brush and I can splay it out so that the actual hairs of the brush will help to create some very fine texture, and I'll give you a close-up of that in just a minute. So now he's got his little fuzzy baby feathers. And I want to get those little feet. Those toenails. And this is not a very careful study. If I was doing a more finished study of the bird, I would spend a lot more time with my drawing. I might do several sketches of individual parts, like a wing study, for instance, the head, the feet, and then eventually I would put them all together to create a study that really depicted all of the characteristics and features of the bird's anatomy. But for this little card, I just want to keep it simple, and now I just want to add a little more shading detail. So I'm coming back in with some washes. Now this is a warmer tone. I talk a lot about values, gradations, and temperature in my watercolor course, including warm and cool tones, which are very important, especially when you're doing something that's as monochromatic as this. So that's the basis of my card. So let's I'm going to start assembling some additional materials. I'm going to add a little bit of my linen thread. Let me get that out. So here's, oh, let me zoom you out. You're a little too close there. There you go. Let me move this out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip a couple of little V shapes on each side. And then I'm going to wrap my thread through those shapes. I'll go around a few times. Okay. Actually, it's not tight enough. I need to tighten that up a little bit. I'm just going to gently pull. There we go, that's better. And I'm just going to slip that little piece underneath and then tie a knot. Make that like so. Now I also have a little feather here that is from one of my chickens, and I'm going to slip that let's see, I want to make sure it fits onto the card, so I think I'll put it like that. I'll tie that into place. A knot. There we go. Snip off. So there's my little card. And here's my card base. Now I think what I want to do is I want to do something to the edges here, so I'm going to sponge them. So I'm going to grab my sponge and my ink pad, which has disappeared. I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. It's underneath. Okay, so here's my Sahara Sand ink, and I'm just going to gently go around the edges, because this is going to be tone on tone, and I want the edges to have a little bit more of a distinction against the background or the card base. Okay. And I'm going to just bend and tear these edges a little bit. They're already torn, but I just want to add a little bit extra so that they cast a shadow on the very vanilla card base below, here and there. You see that? Okay, so now I think I'm ready to glue that down. That feels empty. I've got a whole bunch of glue bottles here that I'm trying to get every last drop out of. And I'm staying away from the edges because I want them to curl up a little bit. So I'm applying the glue about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch away from those edges. Make sure I've got my card right side up. That looks good. Give that a quick burnish. My bone folder. And there's the outside of my card. I may add some embellishments here and there. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, here's a little leftover die cut. I could use that. And just dotting the glue. Tuck that under there. There we go. Now it has a little bit of sparkle. Okay, I think that'll do it for now. Oops, stuck to my finger. Hold that for a minute. Okay, now I also want to put a sentiment inside the card. And I like that one that says, "For a friend that makes me smile." Whoops. There goes my paintbrushes. I'm just going to line this up on my block. envelope, I'm going to go back to my feather image, which is right here. I'm going to put that on my flap. And that's my card for today. So a beautiful little memorial card to celebrate a precious little life. Okay, and I know that my friend who named the little bird is going to be sad that that it didn't make it. So I'm going to give her this card, and that will give her a little memory of this cute little bird that she likes so well. Okay, so I hope that gave you some ideas of some of the different techniques that you can use to combine to make a very unique and special card for a special occasion. There's my sentiment on the inside, to a friend that makes me smile. And I'm going to go out into the garden and find a very special place that I can bury this cute little chick. And I will see you again on Saturday for Paper Crafting Saturday. So stay well, stay happy, get outside and enjoy nature, and stay creative. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today.